Hi, I'm Lisa Johnson, and this course is Slowing Down in a Busy World. It is expressly designed for people who have been told that they need to slow down by a medical professional and received that information with less than enthusiasm. That was my story 12 years ago when my doctor told me that I needed to slow down, and I looked at him like, "You totally don't get it. I completely need to speed up at least 20%, maybe 30 for 6 months. We can negotiate after that. But what is this slowing down anyway? It doesn't even sound appealing." And so I left and I ignored his advice. And it only took 2 years for my body to completely shut down and left me in a couple of months of utter stillness and years of significantly slower activity than what I lived prior. It was a difficult situation to be in, and it was not great news to get at the time, obviously, which is why I ignored it and why I'm so impressed with you for not ignoring it. But so when I got through the grief of what I thought my life was going to be, I decided that my body could either be my jailer or my teacher. And as I began to accept my body as my teacher, my world has completely opened up in new and unexpected ways. And it still meets the requirements I thought I had in this picture of how things had to be. But as slowing down made me give those things up, it really allowed me to embrace things in a very new way. And I'm so excited about it. I wanted to do a course about it, and I'm very delighted that you are taking it. And at the end of this course, you will have a new understanding of why slowing down is wonderful for your body. Deep intentional breaths, times of body rest, connection with nature, these things restore your body at a cellular level quickly and efficiently and with gusto. So it's a wonderful practice. But then it also opens up your world and your relationships in a way that just time didn't allow for prior to that. So speed and efficiency are great, but they're not applicable everywhere. So kind of think of driving your car without the brakes. That's nothing you want to ever do because you need to move through this. And your doctor has just let you know you need to start applying your brakes more. But through that, you might see some scenery you would have passed right by. And I am very excited about that. And this course will teach you how to identify those moments in your own life and enjoy them in a way that you may not expect. Not quite yet, but we'll talk about that in the next video. And between now and then, I invite you to take a single, deep, restorative breath as these videos pass. It is a fantastic way to plug yourself in. Not just set the phone on the counter, set it in the charger. It's a subtle shift, it makes a huge difference, and I invite you to try it right now. Hi. So, hearing that you're supposed to slow down is not a glamorous invitation. It is quite the opposite of that. And I'm sorry, I truly am. But I'm also really excited for you because I know what is possible on the other side. The limitation is real and the grief is real. When we talk about how to do it, spending a little time acknowledging that grief comes in waves and things aren't going to be the same. They might be better. Seriously, I know it doesn't sound like it's possible, but it might be. So, okay, when I was in high school, I had the good fortune of working at Meadowbrook Music Festival, the summer home of the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. And I worked there for years, and I worked in the backstage lot where the DSO parked and also the gate where they would come in and out to work. And so over the years, I got to know them. And they were always very friendly. We were all pretty happy to be at this outdoor, beautiful amphitheater, beautiful summer night. And one night they said, "Hey, Lisa, we always have a party in the back lot after the show. You're welcome to join us sometime." And I was in my teens, and I was like, Mozart, warm milk? I mean, what do symphony people do at a party? And so once again, Lisa ignoring something that was great. But one night I actually got to there. I was on my way home and I saw them and I stopped. And it was so much fun. It wasn't what I expected at all. They were singing. They were drinking, they were dancing, they were having a great time. There were people there, there were supporters, there were people from all the administration, there were all the musicians. It was so much fun. And I remember looking at Don Baker, he was the principal oboe, and he's like, Lisa, a band's a band. And I was like, Don, I see that now. I did not understand it before. And the next week, my mom came with me. And the next week, I think my brother came with me. And it began years of friendship with this wonderful group of the symphony and their supporters, and bonfires and horseback riding, and wonderful parts of my life that I cherish and value and never would have guessed was going to come from the classical music invitation as a teenager. So that's what this is about. I am inviting you to breathe in the possibility that this might be something more than what it sounded like when you first heard it. That limitation that's come into your life might just be a guideline that's trajectorying you to where you really want to go and just don't know it yet. I have found that the more I'm relaxing into these limitations, the more they're opening up aspects I didn't know existed. So that's the continuing invitation, is a paradigm of possibility. So breathe that in between these next videos. One of the paradigm shifts in this course is that every breath counts. Every time you make a concerted effort to take a full inhalation and exhalation in a relaxed and sustained and mindful way, you're doing your body a favor. You're contributing to the positive chemistry happening in your body. And so I like to take a lot of these breaths. One of the first things you'll hear about slowing down is meditation, and meditation is fantastic, and I wholeheartedly recommend it. And there are lots of programs and wonderful teachers and wonderful traditions. But I went through many, and it was difficult for me still. Meditation was something I still beat myself up about. And because I needed to be slow and I needed to kind of solve this riddle, I came at it from 100 different ways, every way I could think of. And throughout that, well, what it became was single breaths throughout the day. And it really helped. And over the course of time, it's led me right back to meditation. But now I enjoy meditation because it's a completely different experience than what I was trying to do when I first started. So every breath counts. You only really have to commit to one. And there are other things that aren't breath-based in this program, How to Slow Down, because it's not for everyone. But breathing is for everyone. And we know that meditation is excellent for our body chemistry and our mental health. And so I think just one is enough to start. I also believe that they call in their friends. Like, once you start having one breath, you'll want to take two, and two will probably lead to three. And maybe three is all you can get in before that elevator door closes or whatever your cue is. But one is enough to get you on the journey, and then it's going to lead itself. It will lead you and itself on how to expand that journey. So all you have to commit to is one breath, intentional, deep, and relaxing each day. So what does slowing down mean? It does mean some things you expect, like less rush, fewer obligations, a longer time between point A and point B, less on the agenda, perhaps not being everything that you've been able to be to everyone you've been able to be it to. These are things that are real and different. But slowing down is, at its core, about connecting with your body in its environment and not thinking constantly about other environments that it needs to be in, but it's connecting with the present moment at its most bare. And that can be very expansive. So it is a limitation that's bringing you into this. But if you can actually reach into your present moment experience, inspired action comes forth. So the yin yang symbol is something that describes visually the space, the stillness of creativity, and the birth of action, and the foundation of action, and its trajectory into then stillness again. And this is a cycle that repeats itself all the time. And typically people who need to slow down really have only been going in one direction. It's more and continuous. It's a lot of stimulus. There's a story of an entrepreneur that goes to a tropical island on vacation and meets a fisherman. And he's watching the fisherman over the course of his vacation. And on the last day he goes up, he's like, you know, you've got such a sweet setup here. I see you only go out for like a half hour in the morning and you bring back all these fish. What do you do? And the guy's like, oh, well, you know, I fish a little. I take a nap. I make lunch for my children. I play with them a little bit. I go watch the sunset in town. And, you know, I guess sunsets don't happen in town. But, you know, and then he comes home and he goes to bed early because he gets up early to go fishing. And the entrepreneur's like, man, you have really got something here. I think that if we got a couple more boats, you could have like a business. And the guy's like, what's for? He's like, well, then you could make even more money and then you could sell fish internationally. And the guy's like, why? And he's like, well, then you could retire and, you know. He's like, what would I do then? It's like, man, no, fish, play with your kids, make lunch on the beach, like all the things the guy was already doing. So there's this mindset of, hey, we can make this something great, and it could be something great. But if it brings you right back to what you were doing, this is the place we are going to pay attention to in this slowing down course. And I believe that slowing down, though it comes at you as a problem, it's really a luxury. And hopefully I'll convince you of that through the course of the course itself. But being in your body and checking in with the present moment has a lot to offer. And that's what I'm going to talk about in the next video, because to understand what slowing down does for your body, you have to be in it a little bit. So thank you for listening. Coming to understand the body's authentic energy levels is one of the best parts of slowing down. I didn't even know the body had authentic energy levels or that it communicated them pretty clearly. And honestly, it's still not clear to me. I'm still learning because I spent the first several decades of my life running around like my body was just the thing that carried my head from important place to important place. But slowing down changed that thought and also started to teach me the language that my body is communicating all the time. So now authentic energy levels start to run the show in my life, and they do a wonderful, wonderful job. But let me talk about some of the things that used to run the show. Everything else. My personal needs, my family's needs, my job's needs, my community's needs, my spiritual community's needs. I really wanted to show up for these people in ways that were meaningful for them and for me. It's really important to me. It's part of my identity. Okay, that's great. But when you slow down, you have to take a break from some of that. But what's wonderful is as you respond to your authentic energy levels, you're kind of able to go back in, but in even more subtle and effective, meaningful ways. So that's kind of exciting about your authentic energy levels, because one of the commitments is not to prioritize other things over the body's needs, right? That's why caffeine is so rampant. And sugar, we have our 3 o'clock snack that we need. We have things that we do to push our body beyond our authentic energy levels. Slowing down is going to ask that you respect your body's authentic energy levels. And in the next video, we'll talk about how to employ that with the relationships that may have to modify a little bit as we make this new commitment. So thanks for listening again. As we monitor our authentic energy levels, we start to let the authentic energy levels run the show instead of our obligations and responsibilities and passions and need for experience. So those things are going to just take a small break. We definitely want to fulfill our obligations in life and explore our curiosities and our passions. But right now, while we're learning how to slow down and seeing what slowing down offers us, we're going to put all that stuff aside for a moment. And sometimes that is hard. So sometimes that means finding carpools. It means finding co-workers that can help. There are the practical pieces of it I'm going to put aside because I want to talk about the philosophical piece of understanding that it does have to happen, but it can be temporary. And you may be able to re-engage with a new level of grounding and powerful contribution. That is what I'm finding that's happening in my life. So some of the reasons people don't want to slow down is because we do have responsibilities and requirements in our lives, and we want to fulfill them. We love doing things for our children and our spouse, and we enjoy our jobs, or hopefully. But from this space, your relationship with others may look different for a little while. And it is important to understand that that's normal. And most people are very supportive, but it does bump up against some other people's issues. And finding ways to let people know that you truly care and you're taking a short time to follow your doctor's orders, slow down, and learn how to re-engage, that you do want to come back on the other side. Later in the series too, we talk about communicating needs to people, because that's part of how to do it. But part of what it is disruptive, but in the very best way. And it helps you reprioritize. As you go through the steps, it'll be wonderful. But I wanted to bring it up right now because, again, it's one of the first things the reasons why people don't want to slow down. But I think it's actually a cause that there's one more underlying cause, and that's what we're going to talk about in the next video. So don't be afraid of what it will do with your relationships, because ultimately slowing down is truly nourishing to relationships. And see you in the next video. So perhaps the biggest paradigm shift that this course might ask you to consider is the idea that being is just as important as doing. I would even argue that it's more important, but I'm trying to ease you into this. So I always kind of based my identity on what I was doing. I based my relationships with people on what I was contributing to their lives. The being part, I didn't really fully understand. And I'm really happy to be learning about it, because it is significantly more satisfying than the chase that I was constantly involved in personally. Hopefully you haven't had those struggles, but that is something that I still struggle with. When I feel better, I want to get more done. And that is not necessarily the best tact for me to take all the time. And so I have to be able to bring myself into a moment of choice of, oh, I feel better, and it's okay if I still just sit here and drink this cup of tea. It's one of those things that I think I'll probably always be in relationship with, and having to make clear choices for my body. But when I overdo it, I can't move. So I have this really high threshold, really incentivized to practice slowing down all the time. Hopefully you're not that serious in your condition, but you can use this knowledge to kind of really let yourself relax one extra time, even if it's just for a single breath. It does amazing things for your body. And I wanted to kind of round out the whole what does slowing down mean with it means being in your body in the present moment. And that's enough for at least one breath a day. But the wholeness section is going to talk about the really true scientific benefits that slowing down is going to offer your body. So I'm excited to tell you about that, because when I learned about that, and then when I started feeling the results of it, that's when I knew that slowing down was the most important thing I could be doing. So I'll see you in the next section. So one of the things I really wish I understood when my doctor told me I needed to slow down was, I wish I understood why slowing down is good for you. What does slowing down do for the body that a medicine can't, or some other approach can't? Oh my gosh, there's an answer to that. I had no idea. I kind of grew up in a situation that my father was ill, and things were volatile from time to time. And so I was kind of, I was little when that happened. And so I was always kind of waiting for the next shoe to drop, or when the next bad thing would happen. I did not realize it. It was not identified, but I went to a neurophysical training guy in Los Angeles a couple years ago. And he's like, basically, you never leave fight or flight. And I didn't really know what fight or flight was, but he said, you're always waiting for the next shoe to drop. You're always solving the next puzzle. Even when you're on vacation or you're relaxing, you still have 10 things on your mind that your body knows what it's doing right now. Your mind is doing like 500 things in different places. That separation causes a little bit of a problem in the body, because where we put our attention allows things to aggregate around it. And when there is no energy, things are looking for some kind of something to rally around. So that was a watershed moment for me, because that's when I learned about the autonomic nervous system, which is what controls the unconscious functions of our body, which is pretty much all the important stuff. The autonomic nervous system has two states. It's either on or off. It's either in fight or flight, or rest and digest. I kind of thought there was a normal, and that those were the two extremes that happened when, you had to fight a tiger or you were on vacation. Turns out we're constantly making the decisions which state we're in. So breathing deeply, bringing our mind into our body, bringing our awareness and our feeling sense in our body instead of on all of those other focuses, signals to the body that it's safe to go in to rest and digest. Now that's wonderful, because when you're in fight or flight, even if you're just thinking, even if it's strategic stuff that you're trying to do, when you're in that, your heart is working harder, because it is pumping out the blood to your extremities so that you have the energy and resources you need to run or fight or think your way out of something. Conversely, rest and digest, when you've signaled to your body that threats are no longer what we're concerned with, we are going to move into basking and feeding and reproducing and doing leisurely activities. Everything changes. All of that work your heart had to do, it doesn't really have to do anymore, because we're really keeping the essential pieces of life in the vital organs. And repair starts to happen, and hormone regulation starts to happen, and digestion of food goes up astronomically, what you're able to extract in terms of nutrients. All of that can only happen if you are in fight or flight. Your digestive system is not extracting optimal nutrients, not even close. You really need to rest, and then your body gets to the work of healing. So that was a crucial understanding for me. And there's so much research you can do on the autonomic nervous system, particularly the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest. It's also called feed and breed, right? So it has to do with this slowing down period, which, because you're here, I think you're a little like me, not exactly the terrain you're used to. Let me tell you, it's great terrain. And it changes your body chemistry so that you start to have more access to the chemicals that are going to allow you to enjoy this healing process more than you would if you tried to spend all your time outside of your body fixing the next thing. So rest and digest. Look it up because there's more to it, but I want to get to the next piece in why it's good for me and my understanding, and that'll come in the next video. Thank you.